Next two speakers are MIT physics professors, so put your seatbelts on. Our first speaker is Professor Aron Bernstein, who was already mentioned briefly by Jonathan in the first session. Aron teaches particle physics and has been one of the people who had direct association with the people who had worked on the Manhattan Project, like Phil Morrison. He's also the national board member of the Council for a Livable World and has taught many courses at MIT on nuclear weapons and nuclear proliferation. So we are lucky to have Aron, and he is going to talk about the dangers arising from the modernization of the US arsenal, in particular the B-61-12 modernization, which is a so-called tactical nuclear weapon, meaning battlefield, and they want to make it very accurate now with all the guidance systems that we can put in, and the talk of usable nuclear weapon is again coming back. This is from James Cartwright, who is supposed to be a good guy, this general. But and then he's also going to talk about 1,000 cruise missiles that we are also putting in as part of the modernization. So if we are ready with that.
You'll get to be like a rock star and use this mic for now until we get the lav mic working.
Okay, so now I'm a rock star.
All right, I'll put this on in case.
This is the first time in my life I've been a rock star, let me tell you. So I'm honored. Okay, look, I want to make a few comments. The first is I want to welcome people, and I'm glad to see all the younger people and students, and anyone who wants, any one of you students who want to follow up after this, the doors are open. My doors are open. So that's number one. Number two, I want to make the general comment that we often fall into the trap that we talk about the numbers of nuclear weapons. And what I want to talk about is their qualities, in particular, the way their basing modes and their alert status. So I don't need to emphasize any more about the alert status because Elizabeth has definitely touched that. That's a major point. So I want to move on to their characteristics and, in particular, their accuracy. Okay? And modernization is a word that is misused in the sense that
We're good. Keep talking.
Okay. The point is that when we make the missiles more accurate, they become more likely to be perceived as a first strike weapon. So the difference between hair trigger alert and the potential use of these weapons as a first strike weapon, is something wrong with the sound?
Sorry.
Max, help.
See, we can always trust technology. It can never go wrong, right? All right, we're going to see if we can get this to not play the slides automatically.
Oh, it's playing it automatically?
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Try now.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think we've solved the mic issue as well. So.
Okay, you can hear me. Well, I'm no longer a rock star. I'm back to my normal academic presentation. Beware of MIT physics professors because it's like drinking from a fire hose. So here goes. Okay, I'll try not to do that. I want to start with an old issue which came up during the 80s and intrigued me, namely, why was the Soviet Union, the Russians, so afraid of Star Wars, which they called space strike weapons? They were first afraid because these intense lasers, promoted by Edward Teller et al., would shine down tremendous death rays on the Earth, you know, like science fiction. But the Soviet scientists understood this was not to be, technically not to be. But the Russians were still afraid. And they were afraid, and I was thinking about this. And I actually took a semester off to think about this particular issue in the mid-'80s. And the conclusion I came to at that point was they were afraid of all our high-tech weaponry, all the developments in surveillance and command and control. That was the issue. They could not match it, and they didn't want to match it. It's very expensive. We were pouring tons of money into it, and technically they couldn't do it. They were weak on the computer aspects, the surveillance aspects, etc. Okay? And this was fascinating. And this, if you fast forward to today, because it's important today, this is exactly why they're still afraid. And the rubric that this goes under is modernization. Okay? And the thing I want to convey to you is mutual vulnerability. When their systems don't work well, if they fire out of fear or misuse of the system, erroneous use, a false alarm, in other words, they fire, we're all dead. It's a mutual suicide pact. I won't go into the tremendous talk that Ira Helfand gave us, but you heard it. So, I've covered this. So basically, the national labs, the US national labs, were given the task of maintaining the weapons without testing. And this has gone on for more than 20 years. And this is quite a success story, because in doing this, the US national labs have understood the physical basis of the weapons much better than they ever understood during the era of testing. Okay, so they have a much more rigorous understanding through examination of the components and through testing of the components. But slipping in is the word modernization, which means that you upgrade the capabilities of the weapons. And the major upgrade is the accuracy. And I'm going to show you 3 slides. 5 minutes, okay. 3 slides on the modernization, which I got from Ted Postal. So first of all, what you have here is an increase in, first of all, the basic physics is the following, that the destructive power is the yield over the error. How accurately can you hit? That's called the CEP, circular error probable. Okay? But it's the error, and it's the square. So if you improve the weapon, you increase the yield 10%, that's one thing. If you decrease the circular error by 5%, you get the same 10% increase in the lethality of that weapon. Now, what you have here is a slide that Ted Postal made where you take the size of the error. This is about where we think it is now for our submarine-based missiles, which are our most devastating first strike missile now. It isn't like it was in the early Cold War days when these missiles had less accuracy, but now they have the greatest accuracy. And then they have this new fusing mechanism, which increases the kill probability from roughly 50% to the order of 85–90%. Okay, so the lethality, the kill probability, is almost 100% with the new fusing. And this is for a very hardened silo. The Russians claim their silos are a factor of 5 less hardened, by the way, for the cognoscenti. This is how it works. There's a whole area, I'm not going to press this too much, but with conventional fusing, you have a certain range of possible errors. When you hit the target is here. The target is presumably a Russian missile silo. And now with the advanced fusing, see, this is the volume in which you would make a destructive hit. And with the advanced fusing, it's almost all the hits are in that volume. Okay, so you're getting close to 100% destructive capability with the new fusing. And this is a dramatic example. I couldn't resist showing this. This shows the crater size from the larger explosive power. There are two possible explosive powers in these submarine launch missiles. This is the more explosive one. And this shows the crater, and this shows a building the size of the US Capitol, so you get the scale. Okay, so these are enormous craters that can be created. So you get a feeling for the destructive potential of one upgraded missile. So Lisbeth has discussed the possibility of an accidental nuclear war. I won't stress this at all. I just want to show we have other plans to upgrade missiles. This is a very controversial missile. It's the B-61, excuse me, missile, Model 12. The Model 12 is critical with these tail fins and higher accuracy. Okay? Here's the message. We live in a mad, you know, remember, mutual assured destruction, but mad in the normal meaning of that word. Look it up in Webster, okay? And it's mad. And we live in a mutually dangerous world. If they fire, we'll fire, and vice versa. And we're mutually vulnerable. And when their radars are not up to snuff, their early warning, and they aren't up to snuff, we are in greater danger. And Lisbeth talked about the warning time. US presidents have 10 minutes warning time. Russian presidents probably have 3 minutes. So keep that in mind. And we are vulnerable. So thank you.